Welcome to Mortgages and More, your go-to podcast for the latest insights in the mortgage industry. Join us as we dive into expert advice, unveil actionable tips, and learn how to empower the next generation of home buyers. Get ready to elevate your knowledge and make those property dreams a reality. Let's get started. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to our 30 and 30 here in January. And Brian, I got to tell you, I'm nervous for this one.
Me too.
Because this gentleman does what we're doing better than anybody.
Amen.
So I feel like we should just stop talking to go ahead and let him talk, but I'll let you give him a quick intro real fast.
Well, I think everybody knows D.O., Dustin Owen, the founder and host of the Loan Officer podcast, and also TLOP Online. Also one of the divisional leaders at Waterstone Mortgage. D.O., thanks for coming on our 30 and 30 series.
Yeah, Brian and Kyle, I'm super excited to be a part of everything you guys are doing. The book, the podcast, Brian, what you guys are doing over at FinLocker. Kyle, I'm excited that you and I are going to sit down and actually record a podcast episode together. So
yes, we are
on TLOP. That'll be dropping in January of 2024. So yes, I'm excited. Thank you. I'm honored.
Well, let's dive right in because we don't want to short the audience from your expertise and knowledge here, D.O. So we asked you to contribute a chapter, and who better to write on this topic, podcasting and the value of podcasting for the local loan originator than Dustin Owen. So why don't you tease out for the audience what your chapter is going to go into?
Yeah, so we start with the most basics. You'd be amazed at how many people really don't know what a podcast is. So I just have learned going around the country speaking the past year. I first start with y'all who don't know what a podcast is. It's a radio show. That's it. It's a radio show that you can listen to from anywhere. Your phone is typically where people go, or with us, a lot of people go to YouTube and they watch us, but you're basically watching a talk radio show. But it's a talk radio show that is typically put on by anyone from anywhere. And they could be 5 minutes long. They could be 5 hours long. But I think you first have to start with understanding what is it. And then it's like, what's the purpose? And the purpose is you need to entertain and educate. At least that's our purpose. And that's what we have found works best in that format. No different than talk radio, or you think about reality TV, unscripted television. What's the purpose of that, right? It's letting people peer into the lives of others while being entertained. We just add a educational component to it. So the chapter that we're going to contribute, it's me teaching what I have learned over the past 4 years of starting what quite honestly was a passion project. It was a hobby. And why do I call it a hobby? Because to me, a hobby is something that I love doing that typically costs me money. And my podcast at this standpoint has not made me any money. Now, it has afforded me an opportunity to launch a loan officer training and development company. And if everything goes well in 2024 and we continue to grow at the pace that we're growing, that company will make money. And that company was only made possible because of the podcast. But early on, my podcast was nothing more than a hobby. And when I started it, I knew that I was going from A to Z. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. Meaning I knew I wanted to make content. I knew I wanted to make content for really, it was everything that they should have taught us in school, but they didn't. To me, these are the lessons that are learned and taught by mortgage loan originators. So my content was made for mortgage loan originators, the clients they serve, i.e. realtors, and their customers, i.e. mortgage borrowers, which is essentially about 70 to 80% of the American populace. So in the chapter, we're going to talk about first, what is a podcast? Then we're going to talk about why someone would or would not want a podcast. And something that I'll point out, I wouldn't recommend or teach the way that I did it. And that sometimes shocks people. Like, wait a minute, why wouldn't you teach or recommend the way that you did it? I went national. I had the ability because, Brian, as you alluded to, I do have another full-time job. That full-time job is helping run a large national mortgage company. And that full-time job allows me to put the food on the table and pay the bills for my family. I had the opportunity to play the long game. I had the opportunity to produce content for 4 consecutive years with never needing to worry about, is this making money or costing money? I don't know if many people have that opportunity, nor do they have the bandwidth or the fortitude or the endurance. And quite honestly, not everyone can have a national podcast, right? Like I'm chasing guys named Joe Rogan and Dave Ramsey at this standpoint, knowing the odds of me ever getting there are probably slim to none, but that's what I'm chasing.
Are you sure you want me on there?
Yes, I want you on there. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
I just you say those names. I would rather have those names than this name. So feel free to kick me off.
About that, something I take pride in is I've acknowledged, look, that's my BHAG. That's my big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what I'm shooting for. If I fall flat on my face, as probably the odds would suggest I will, I'm curious to how far I could go striving for those types of heights. But one thing that I love doing on our particular show is I want to introduce people to all of the super talented individuals that none of us get to meet, right? There's the same half a dozen or dozen talking heads in multiple spaces. Our space is mortgage and real estate, but they're not the only talented people. They're not the only successful people. And sometimes their method of delivery of messaging could be resonated differently and better with the audience if it came from a different talking head or a different mouthpiece. So I think the opportunity we really have is to introduce the country, right? Spokane to Key West and everywhere in between, to all of this talent and all these resources that maybe aren't being discovered. And that's what really a real estate agent or a mortgage loan originator has within their local community. That's really what the chapter that I contributed was about. It's like, hey, how do you become your local community expert, the subject matter expert, or the source of all information? But what you're going to do is you're going to uncover all of the hidden talent within your 3 or 4 counties, within your 5 or 6 zip codes. And in return, you'll probably see monetization happen pretty quickly, not because people are going to pay you to come speak, not because people are going to pay you to coach them and train them, not because people are going to pay for sponsorships or ads on your platform. It's like, no, because you're going to use your platform, your mic, your camera to introduce yourself to others who don't know you. And as they get to know you and they learn what you do for a living, they're going to want to refer you. And you're going to be able to target certain clients or prospective clients that had you not had a podcast, you may have not had a way to forge a relationship, but you can start by putting your hand out, introducing yourself and inviting them to be a part of something cool. In return, they get this asset. The asset would be the actual audio and video that you created. And you didn't make it about selling yourself or your service. You made it about giving a thing of value, putting the spotlight on your target audience. Now you have the opportunity for them to get to know you. If they get to know you, they could potentially like you. If they like you, there's a good chance they'll trust you. If they trust you, we all know where this goes. If they trust you, then you end up generating a business relationship that brings you leads tend to go to sales, commissions, voila.
Yeah, Brian, we didn't even have to get to the second question today.
I know.
That's why Dio is who Dio is. He just transitioned himself there. But that's, man, like, what I love about everything you just said and what's been true for my podcast, and I'm sure Brian would say it's been true for his, in a local environment like it would be for most loan officers, man, to me, a podcast is almost like having a key to the city.
Yeah.
You can take that ask, that invite into anywhere, and I don't have to lead through selfishness. I get to lead by going, hey, bro, you're an unbelievable human being. Would you grace us with your presence on our show? Because people need to know you more. And nobody says no to that.
Right.
Unless you're Joe Rogan or, somebody else. And hopefully he's going to say yes. But bro, we're so honored to have you being a part of this project, man. What you do, in my opinion, is what LO should 100% be committing to in 2024. And so I think this is going to be one of the best chapters in the book.
I hope so. It's interesting because it's something, if you're going to do it, like most things, you have to commit to it. Like you have to say, I'm going to do this for 12 consecutive months, or for me, It was 24 consecutive months.
Yeah.
And you have to also put I'm going to do it how many times? So I'm going to produce 1 episode a month for the next 12 months or 1 episode a week. And you stick to it without fail. You don't miss that because you have to do it sometimes up to 18 times before you ever get good.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to build it as you grow, and you're going to understand you're not going A to Z. You're going A to B, B to C, C to D as you go down this journey. But if you do it properly, what you'll turn around and find out a year or 2 down the road is not only do you have a library of content that you now can repurpose for your own marketing, but you now have this cadence and this skill set of interviewing that all of a sudden people are going to reach out to you. They're going to want to be a part of what you're doing.
That's right.
And it's compounding effects if you're willing to actually stick it out.
So you heard it here, guys. Start thinking about the name of your podcast, because then you're going to get this book. Dustin's going to lay out how to have it, what to do, and you're going to already have the name ready to go. So we appreciate you guys. Dustin, you're the man. I can't wait to see you soon in Orlando. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Thank you so much.